But for our first topic here tonight, since you're a musician and you've got all those really fantastic songs, if you're listening out there, go to his YouTube channel, check it out. He's also got a website out there with all of his music, and I believe you're on Spotify as well. And
Yes.
you've basically got a song for every president of the United States, right?
Correct.
And they're incredibly accurate and informative and so entertaining, like just ridiculously entertaining. Especially for nerds like me who happen to read presidential biographies. So it was like, So one of the things that Walter and I talk about a lot is the production Hamilton and how there's no like other side of the story. Like we say that's kind of like the Federalist story, but we really need the like Madisonian story as well. And we talked about this a little bit in our pre-interview, and you had mentioned that you don't even really like Broadway musicals, which shocked me considering you kind of seem like the type of guy who could write one. So I challenged you. I said, hey, would you consider writing a Madisonian Hamilton? And you said that maybe you would think about it. I'm curious, since our pre-interview, have you thought about it? Because I've thought about it a lot. I've got a whole outline here with all the different points. I thought maybe we could talk about it. I was just really excited about it. I wanted to see what you've been cooking up.
This really could be the genesis of something. I did bring this up to my daughters after we talked, and they got excited because they love musicals. They both, yeah. But again, I mean, sure, I don't like to watch musicals. In fact, when I watched Hamilton, I was like, okay, meh. But I think that if I'm actually creating it, that's a different story. Yeah, because like, especially since I just made this, I'm actually currently working on a video about James Madison, and I just wrapped up my Thomas Jefferson video. Yeah, so I have all the research. I have a lot to say about Madison.
I mean, there is a lot to say about Madison, both good and bad. And the way that I outlined this, I think I highlight the good and the mistakes. I don't want to use the word bad because I think for it to be bad, he would have to have nefarious intent. And I think he was just a person trying to solve problems a lot of times. I don't necessarily agree with all of his decisions, but I agree with most of his decisions. But I think what's really important about the Madison story, especially cultural today, especially if you visited Montpelier, which have you been to Montpelier before?
Yeah,
Okay.
we all went there. Yeah. Did you guys?
I have. I live nearby. I don't think the other two have.
I have not. I've been to Mount Vernon and Monticello, but I haven't hit Montpelier yet. It's on my list.
Yeah, we went. It was pretty cool. We went last month.
Oh yeah. So I went about 2 months ago now, and they try to capture like the story of Madison and his family and the plantation. And I think that's a really good place for the Broadway musical to start, is showing the childhood of a wealthy plantation owner, showing a different side of America and kind of what inspired him or what provided him the foundation to end up where he was. You would go from the childhood, you would go to the education of Madison with Princeton and Witherspoon. That's an important time in his life. Plus, Madison was also one of those guys that was really self-educated. He spent a lot of time reading on his own, John Locke, Montesquieu, and I think highlighting this is really important. And then things get really interesting because of the Revolutionary War. You've got revolutionary politics. You've got he's working in the state government. He works on religious freedom, and then you go into the building the republic, writing the Constitution, which that could be, you can bring in a whole cast of characters, right? That could be the big center point of the whole play, right? And then you go on to the back half of his life, Madison the partisan, right? You get into some of like the mistakes maybe that he made, the Jeffersonian error, the embargo, the Aliens and Sedition Act, the Louisiana Purchase. And then a wartime president, the War of 1812, the Second Bank of the United States, and then finally, like his retirement, securing the Republic, him and Dolly finishing the notes, right? I think this is such an important part of American history, and it would be a great way to close out showing the relationship between him and Dolly. I think she's just a fantastic figure in American history, too.
I actually I hate to cut you off, but I think a good way to frame the whole thing would be writing those notes. They could be the narrators.
Oh, see, this is why I knew this is the guy to do it. I knew this is the guy to do it.
All right. So does this mean we're putting all our energies in a Madison musical now? We're not doing a Washington musical anymore because I'm having a hard time keeping up.
It's always been a Madison musical in my eyes.
Okay, I thought we were talking about Washington at one point, but that's okay.
Walter, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, Washington was my idea, so I will speak up in defense. And I think they go hand in hand. Obviously, they were there together, and I think if this central climactic picture is around, the signing of the Constitution, and I think Washington's standing up to defend, better representation as being kind of the only sacred right that he cared about. You can call it whatever you want. I just want that image in every American's mind.
Yeah, it makes sense. Madison would be the foil for Hamilton, so yeah, it's a better theme, I guess.
Well, and Jeff is obsessed with Madison. I think it's the other.
I wasn't going to go there, but okay.
I'm not.
I don't know, Matt. What do you think as a redux to Hamilton, Madison versus Washington?
Well, it could be just that whole side of, oh yeah, the Ketchum book, yeah. I referenced that one. That's a good one. I think just overall, the thing that's kind of misrepresented often about Madison is that he often gets lumped in automatically with the Democratic Republicans and the anti-federalists, the ones who were kind of just automatically, like kind of the anti-Hamiltons. But he was kind of in the middle. He was a very pragmatic guy. Like, in some ways, he was the most diplomatic founding father we had because he was bringing all these people together in rooms, making deals behind the scenes. Like he was like one of the first people to show up in Philadelphia before the convention, just networking. And he kind of has this also reputation as a quiet guy. He's tiny and he's sickly and he's soft spoken, but no, he was outgoing. That's another myth about him. So he wasn't afraid to makes all these deals with all these other guys. So yeah, his pragmatism is maybe hard to dramatize, because you always want, you want the Jefferson versus Hamilton rap battle going on. So I don't know where that would fit in.
Yeah, that to me is like where Washington is just this towering figure in American history. And it's also, I mean, the other reason I think Washington is because if this were to happen relatively quickly, it's somebody that this president and the next president, it's somebody that they lionize too. Every American president, I think, looks to George Washington with some amount of respect.
Yeah.
So I think you make a good point about that. We kind of talked about it on the phone about Madison is he's guy in the middle. He's not as divisive as you would think. I do find it funny, at least sometimes in the letters between Jefferson and Madison. Jefferson is telling Madison, he's like, just get out your pen and cut him down, right? He's telling him to go after people, right? But Madison finds himself in between battles a lot. And that's the really intriguing part about the play, because you get to tell so many different stories. Madison's always in the room, but the other two people are fighting, and Madison is bringing them together. And I think that's a lesson that America needs to learn, right? The lesson we learned from Hamilton was fight and win. And I don't think that's the lesson America needs to learn right now. We need to learn how to compromise.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I like that.